Tashdale to everyone, and welcome to the Tibetan Grammar course. And today we're going to discuss the negative particles and some usage examples of the negative particles. After which we will have only the general particles. And with this, which is the negative particles, we will be done with all of the independent particles. We just have the general particles after that. So the negative particles, before we go to the actual topic, let us begin with the verse, and then we'll continue. So first we have the line of dedication. So Lama Jambe ala Chatselo. So today we dedicate our merits to the Lord and Guru Manjushri. So with this, this is the verse with which we will begin our class today. So Tunam Tamji Chawale Reshi Chawe Tunam Ki Chawatsi Le Yimbena Singmin Chawa Yomai. So let me repeat this again. So Tunam Tamji Chawale Reshi Chawe Tunam Ki Chawatsi Le Yimbena Singmin Chawa Yomai. So what does it mean? So let me do this. So it states, I prostrate to the Lord and Guru Manjushri, which is the line of dedication. And so Tunam Tamje Chawale, it means that time is indicated by the occurrence of actions. Each action manifests time in existence. Actions are mere projections of labels. Without labels, there is no action at all. And so there is no time also. So this is the translation of the Tibetan verse. Now today we're going to, today I'm going to introduce the particles of the negative particles, and some of the usage case in accordance to the text will be discussed. And we might discuss the concept of negation and the classification of negation in next class, not this one, where we'll discuss different types of negation, and we'll also talk about the type of negation which need not the particles to indicate a negative of something. So let us begin with the verse from the text. So it states, Leshe Jongwan Le Mami Minme Gaurate Mami Thongmar Minme Chu Mani Pargi Silche La. So let me begin. Let me repeat this again. Mami Minme Gaurate Mami Thongmar Minme Chu Mani Pargi Silche La. So one thing that is important to understand is that as we are understanding the meaning of these verses, the more we understand the meaning of the verses, and then we are able to connect the verse with the actual text, it becomes much easier for us to revise them simply by reading the verses. So therefore, the more we connect the meaning that we learn during the class with the verses, later when we read the verse again, we understand that it helps us revisit all the concept that we studied during the class. So this verse from 30, the Tree of Excellence speech, it states that the negative particles are ma, mi, min, me. So these are the negative particles. And out of this, ma, mi is placed in front of a name. So we associate these with a particular name, and whichever name is associated with these particles, what we understand is that the negation, the negative of that particular name is the meaning. For example, if a name is if a name, for example, in this case, let's say that it's a word like dro, which means to go. If we associate this with the negative particles madro, ma, or mi, what happens is that the very meaning of this verb or action word, it becomes the negative of this, meaning that if the verb means to go, then with the association of the negative particles, it becomes to not go. To not go. So therefore, these particles are used with the name, or a combination of names also, combination of name also brings out a word, so name or word. And when we use it with a name or a word, what happens is that the meaning gets, the very meaning is now opposite, meaning that not opposite in a sense, but it becomes negative of the very meaning. So there are four particles we have, which are known as the negative particles. The four particles are ma, mi, min, me. And these four particles are understood in Tibetan grammatical system to function as a negative particle. And out of these four, the first two, mami, is placed in front of a name. So we see that in the text, very text, it says mami tokmar. It says mami tokmar. It means that mami comes in front, whereas minme chuk. Minme chuk means it comes after. Now the question is, what does it come in front of, and what does it come after? So mami comes in front of a name, whereas minme is placed after a name. So mami is placed in front of a name, whereas minme is placed after. So this is how we associate these particles with the name. But then there are also cases in which ma is also used in between two names. So ma is also used in between two names, or it's placed between two names. For example, we have samato. In this example, we see that we have first name, which is sa, the second name is trok, and in between we have ma. So it becomes samato. So therefore, in most cases, we see that ma and mi are placed in front of a name, and min and me is placed after a name. But there are also cases in which ma is used between two names. Okay, so as we see in this table, we see that Ming, which is name, as we know. So therefore, always differentiate between Ming and Mingzi. One is name, other one is naming word, which is also part of a word. So once we're done with all the particles, I guess we should revise the difference between the name word and the naming word, because this is actually a more difficult concept in the Tibetan grammatical system and very confusing. Many cannot differentiate between name and naming word. And it comes in the understanding of the first grammatical case, where we start differentiating between name and naming word and word. Okay, so Gagda means negative particles, which means ones which are used in front, which are associated in front of a name. So we have two of these. The first one is ma, the second one is mi. So ma and mi are used in front of name. Yes, so now as we see, these two particles, ma and mi, are used in front of the name. So mingi tongmar, whereas this is used as mingi chugmar. So at the end. And then we have, so these two particles, min and me, can be used at the end or after. So it can associate after the name. And this is also used when written in between two names, which is ma. So these two are written in front or before the name. These two are written after the name, whereas this can be used both. So it's some cases in which this could be used in between two names. So this is how we use these particles. So just like the text, it says mami tongmar, or tongma there. So here we have tongmar, mami tongmar minme juk, mani parki silche. So here I have used the seventh grammatical case because it makes sense. Mami tongmar minme juk, mani parki silche, which means that the particle ma and mi can be used in front, and in front indicating the seventh grammatical case, which indicates the position, meaning the position of the particle should be in front. Whereas in this, we see that mingi jugmar, which means here I have used ha to indicate that it follows, not to state it tails or it is at the end, but to say that it follows the name. So here the spelling may not be same as the text, but here it is, but still this is the correct usage here. Though I can change it to the same with the text, but here also it's the same. So it says that it comes after the name. Here, instead of saying that it comes as the second portion of the name, which is juk there with ma, I have just written it comes after the name, or it follows the name. And here we see that it is used, par means in between, in the middle or in between. So in between the two names. So mami tongma, or in this case, mami tongmar minme juk mani parki silche. So mami at the beginning, minme at minme following the name, and ma can be used in between. So these are the three usage cases that we see of the negative particles. Though currently we are not discussing any of the types of negation. We're simply discussing the particles, their association, and some of the examples where they are used. We will discuss the negation in the next class because it's that particular concept of negation itself is a little bit tricky. So we'll talk about it in the next class. So therefore, this is how we associate these with names. So the first one, we have the negative particle ma, and some examples. As you see, perju. Perju means stated as example. And here, the first one is mache. Che means to do. Mache is the negation of to do. That means not to do or to not do. So let me repeat. It means that if we don't work today, it is fine, meaning it is proper. So we see that the particle that we have used, ma, what it does is that it negates the usage of che. So it becomes to not do. Malap. Lap means to say. Malap means to not say. Keranki keja dinso malap na yakutu. Keranki keja dinso malap na yakutu. Here we add the sa because this is the third grammatical case. So it states that if you don't say these things, it is good if you don't say these things. So more like don't say this. If it's an action, to do this becomes don't do this. It's the negation of the action. So malap, lap is an action word which means to say or to speak. Malap is the negation of to speak. That means don't speak, to not speak. Keranki kecha ditso malap na yakutu. It is proper if you don't say these things. Here we see these by the usage of tso. Di means this. Deso means these. And if can be indicated by this particle na. So we might have encountered this many times. Yuna, chena, ina, shena. So it means if. Manyo. Nyo means to buy. Manyo means don't buy. Kangba te tata manyo. Ning kashe che renkong nyong to droyi re. So Kangba te tata manyo. Ning kashe che renkong nyong to droyi re. It means don't buy this house now. After some days, the price will drop. So nyo is the action to buy. Manyo is the negation, which means not buy or don't buy. Mashe, she means to say, to speak, to talk. Mashe means don't talk, don't speak, don't say. Ngatso keja kangjung mashe na yasa reto. Ngatso keja kangjung mashe na yasa reto. It means it will be better if we don't say anything. It's like saying it will be better if we don't say whatever we want to say. Kangchung means whatever. So it is better if we don't say whatever or whatever comes to our mind. So the negation of the action of she is understood by the particle ma, mashe. Don't speak or to not speak. Male, don't take. Male is don't take. Le, to take. Male means to not take. Kete kong la ngui mangbo mena kala rimba male. Kelte kong la ngui mangbo mena kala rimba male. If he doesn't have a lot of money, don't don't take, or don't charge. So this is something that one can also infer. It could understand as if he doesn't have a lot of money, don't take or don't charge him for the food. Male. So these are some examples in which we have the negative particle. What it does is that it negates, or what it does is that it states the negative of an action here. Definitely, a negative can also be of an adjective. For example, if we have che, which means big, mache, which means not big, new, which means less, manu or minu, which means not less. So as you can see that the negation of ma and mi are usually associated with action word, as well as we have the descriptive word. So ma and mi are mostly associated with action words and action words, as well as descriptive word. So it could be both adjective and adverb. And it shows the negation, because both of these describes a quality. So if we use a negation, it means negation of that quality. For example, if we have the word lek, which means good, milek means not good. Sang, which means it can also be understood as fine or good, then also kind. Misang or masang, which means to not be kind, to not be fine or good. So therefore, ma and mi are mostly associated with action word and descriptive word, that is adjective and adverb. Okay, so the second negative particle that is stated in front of a word or a name is mi. So first one is mirung. Mirung means it's improper. Improper. So 闲了通冲且mirung. 闲了通冲且mirung, which means one should not look down on others, or it is not proper, or it's improper to look down on others. Then we have the conformational particle, that is tuk, which means that, so tuk can be understood in two ways. One, it is understood as the conformational particle, which says that something is there. Second, tuk is also understood as to stay. But tuk, as the understanding of the word to stay, is more like Old Tibetan. It's an Old Tibetan word. Tiru tuk, which means stay here. But this is a more Old Tibetan. And in more contemporary Tibetan, we use the word de. Tiru de. Whereas one can also say tiru tuk. But here, tuk is understood as conformational particle, meaning that a particle that states, that indicates that something is here. So mituk means negation of something being at a place or something existing. So saying that it is not here or not existing. Kerangi keja shepatela kyunse mitu. Kerangi keja shepatela kyunse mitu, which means that there is no reasoning or logical, there is no logical backing or reasoning behind what you have said. So here we are using the negation to negate the existence of the reasoning. And in this particular case, reasoning that is existing in the speech of someone. So it states that in the speech of or a speech that someone has given, that there is no reasoning. in that no reasoning exists. So mitu. Then we can also use it to say that something is not there. For example, we can say that, oh, I went there, but I went there, but the book is not there. Thepte mitu or thepte thela mitu. So let me get this, and let's see. Okay, let us take this. Lasso nga thela chi in te hepte thela mitu. It means that even though I went there, the book was not there. So indicating the negation of the existence of. So we see that the negation of the existence of the book at that place is indicated by the particle mi. So now the third one is mite, which means to not remember. Halo nge ni tuba nge mite. Halo nge ni tuba nge mite. It means that I don't remember meeting you last year. Halo means last year. Chilo means next year. Telo means this year. So we know this. We know that if I say halo, it means last year. Chilo, which means next year. And then we have telo, which means this year. So last year, next year, this year. Then we also have this word sanglo. This comes from the word kasang, or sangni. This comes from sangni, which means tomorrow. But sanglo means next year. So you can either say chilo or you can say sanglo. Or you can also say lochema. This is also another word that you can use for next year. And you can also say longhama. So these are the words that you can use in order to describe next year, this year, or last year. So here it says long halo ngeni means us, both of us. Pupa nge mite. I don't remember both of us meeting last year. So this is ngeni means both of us. Okay, so here we have the word mite. Te means to remember. Mite is the negation of the action to remember. That is to not remember. Mikur, which means unchanging. Kur means to change. Mikur means unchanging. So ngopo mikur panime. So the example is ngopo mikur panime, which means there is no object that doesn't change. And currently we're talking about the impermanent when we talk about object. So there is no object that does not change. So we have two negations here, but we focus on this one here. So which means there is no object that doesn't change, indicating that every object changes and that it is not constant or temporary, constant or permanent. So gyur is change. Migyur is the negation of the change, which means unchanging, without change. Mita tak means permanent. Mita means impermanent. So this is the negation of permanent. This is the negation of change. So this could also be understood as this without the negation part. If we had this without the negation part, this would be understood as migyur, which means unchanging, and tak means permanent. Mita is the negation of the permanent, so impermanent. So it's something that is changing. So how you ni mita mitako. How you ni mitako. It means that every object that appears to us is impermanent. So entirety of object that appears to us, that is apparent to us, is impermanent. So mi is the negation, tak is permanent. So mitak is the negation of permanent. So it's impermanent. So mitak. And here you see migyur, mitak is an example in which we have used mi in front of a word that is a describing word. The describing word are gyur and tak, which means changing and permanent. And by using the particle mi in front of these, we have seen that it makes it the negation. So mitak is permanent. Mitak is impermanent. Migyur is permanent. So therefore, and then we can also understand migyur me. If we just say migyur me, so let me. So this is the negation of changing. So it's changing. So this and this is the negation of the negation of the changing. So it is changing. So this and this are the same. As we can see, these two words mean exactly the same. It means that changing. This word and this tak and migyur, these are the same. Tak. So like I said, sometimes negations, which we will discuss in the next class, sometimes negation need not have the particle mi. So this itself is the negation of changing, or impermanent. So we'll talk about the negations later in more detail in next class. But the idea is that sometimes we can use multiple negation to understand the things. For example, mitak and migyur me are the same, which means mi, the first negation is to the change. So it means that unchange. But the second negation is to the unchange, which makes it changing. Similarly, mitak, where tak is unchanged, permanent, and the negation of the permanent makes it impermanent. So here, even though we have two negations, it is same as this one, which has just one negation because of the meaning. And this, even though it has a negation, it is same as this word, which doesn't have a negation, which means permanent. Okay, so therefore, this is the example of negation used with a descriptive word. So as I have already stated, mi and ma are usually used either with verb or with descriptive words. Now, these are the two particles that are used as it follows the name or the word. It is used after the name. So, nge norwa chemin. Nge norwa chemin. It means I have done nothing wrong. So, norwa che means to do wrong. Norwa che means the negation of doing wrong. That means that to not do wrong. So, I have done nothing wrong. So, nge, or we won't use the word nothing because this will complicate, because one might think, where is the word that indicates nothing? So, I didn't do wrong. Nge norwa chemin means I didn't do wrong. So, norwa che means to do wrong. Norwa che min is the negation, which means I didn't do wrong. Sorry, I didn't do wrong. So, I didn't do wrong. For example, if one was planning to go on a trip, and then some people would say that, oh, let us go to the ocean. Some people say, let us go to the mountain. And then we see that the majority decided to go to the mountain. And then one or two people did not want to go to the mountain. But then since it was the majority word, they had to tag along because they didn't want to stay back doing nothing. So in those cases, we can say, which means if you don't want to come here, that is on the mountain, then why did you come here? So, yongde min. De yongde means desire to come. Yongde min means the negation of the desire to come. That means to not desire to come, to not have desire to come, undesiring to come. So we have the negation of desiring. Mila namdo member kalasi. Kalasi is a word which says, how is it possible? It's a very beautiful phrase, kalasi, which means how is it possible? So it states, Mila namdo member kalasi. It means, how is it possible for a human to not have thoughts? It's not possible for human to not have thoughts. It's also true for the sentient. Anyone that has consciousness, it's impossible for them to not have thoughts, because the very function of the mind is to think. So it should be without mind to have no thoughts. So, Mila namdo memba kalasi. How is it possible for man to have no thoughts? So, here we have not directly stated. So, the min, which is negation, is not directly negating the existence in writing, but it's inferential with the usage of kalasi, means how is it possible? Namdo mimba means not having thoughts, without thoughts. So it says, how is it possible for a human to not have thoughts? So mimpa here is the negation, which negates the existence. It is a negation which says the non-existence of thoughts. So negation towards the non-existence of thoughts. And this negation is interesting because of the usage of this phrase. If we just simply said mila namto mimbare, which means men are without thoughts, humans, that is, are without thoughts, then here we see that it's a confirmation of the negation. But here we see kalasi, which means how is it possible? So this very phrase is also a reversal. It says it's not possible. So it's saying that it's not possible for man to not have thoughts in a more inferential manner, rather than directly stating it with a particle. Okay, so the third example. Nga tharing lobthar troyimin. Nga tharing lobthar troyimin. It means I will not go to school today. Lobthar tro means to go to school. Lobta Droi Min is the negation of the action to go to school. That is, to not go to school. So, nga, which means I. Ring means today. Lobtar, as we can see that I have used the particle, and here it is the second grammatical case because I have the object, meaning I have the place where I have the object of the action, an action that has to be done, where the action is being done or targeted, and I have the action that is to go. So lobtar dro means to go to school, which is the second grammatical case. Lobtar droi mean with the negation, which means to not to go to school. So it states, I am not going to go to school today. Thalo loto yakpo mindu. Thalo loto yakpo mindu. Loto means harvest. So it states that this year, dilo or thalo. So both of these means this year, dilo or thalo. Thalo loto yakpo mindu. It means that this year the harvest is not good. Yakpo means good. Yakpo mindu means it means the negation of the existence of good, that is not good. So this year the harvest is not good. So these are examples of the usage of the particle min, which is a negative particle that is used after, the name, as you can see. Mindu is a more special case where you can see that it comes before the conformational particle. And the case only stands when it comes before this particular conformational particle, tuk. And definitely you can substitute mindu with midu, which will also be the same. So this is the only case in which we see that min comes before tuk. But in all the rest, we see that min comes after the very name that it negates. Che min, yongde min, to nam to min, droi min. This is the only case where we see that min is, even though it may indicate towards yakpo, but it also comes after the conformational particle tuk. Which also tells us that in many cases, the conformational particle tuk, re, yu, mostly comes at the end of a statement. So this is a property that is intrinsic to this conformational particle. Okay, so examples for the usage of the particle me. And it's similar to min, but we will see a difference between the type of negation that can be understood later. Te nga la peju me. Te nga la peju me. I have no use of it. Peju means use. Peju me is the negation of use, which is useless. That is useless to me. Or I have no use of it. Nga la gwesem chungyang me. Nga la gwesem chungyang me. Which means I don't have even the tiniest regret. I don't have even the tiniest regret, even by the usage of the particle yang, chung, which means the tiniest, the smallest. Gwesem means the mind of regret or regret. So, nga la gwesem chungyang me, which means I don't have even the tiniest regret. Me as a negative particle, also me as a particle which is negative of the particle yu, which is also used as possessing something. So, for example, if it's we can say nga la kangba chenpo yu, nga la kangba chenpo shi yu, which means I have a big house. Or we can say nye nang la king yu. So, for example, if we have nye nang la i nga ye, which means I have 5 dogs at my house. So the negation would be nge, na, la, ki, nga, me. So me can be a negation of the particle ye, which directly states that it doesn't possess. So ye is used to also it's also used in a way that it indicates someone possess something. So me can be the direct opposite or the negation of that. Like I said, it can be me and min can be used with naming words, like possessing something, and or it could be also used. Min can be also the opposite of yin, which is to be verb. So the opposite of to be verb. Whereas may can be the opposite of to possess, that is to not possess. So therefore, in this manner, min and ye can min and may can also be used with naming words, which we see is not the case with ma and ni. Because we saw all the examples that are associated with ma and ni are either with action word or descriptive word. And we also see that min and may can be used with the descriptive word and action word, but then they can also be used with the naming word. For may, it's more like not possessing, whereas min is more like not being. Khasa nge leka khaya cheme. Khasa nge leka khaya cheme. Yang, which is, as we know, it's the continuative particle. It's the ornamental, and it's the ornamental case, usage case. In this case, what it does is that it binds, indicating the usage as even. So, kasange lega kaya cheme. I didn't do anything. So kaya cheme. Kaya is more like anything. Kaya cheme is the negative of anything. So nothing. Yesterday I did nothing. Or yesterday I didn't even do anything. I didn't do any job or any work. Yesterday I didn't do anything or any job. The negation of doing something has been negated by the usage of the particle me, which makes it doing nothing. It states that on the snow mountain, the weather is not good. Yakpu means good. Yakpu me means not good. So here it's directly negating the descriptive word that is yakpu. Taring nang tu suyang me. Taring nang tu suyang me means today there is no one at the house or home. Today there is no one at the home. Suyang means anyone. Suyang me means no one. So there is no one at the home today. With the usage of the negative particle, anyone became no one. Anything became nothing with the usage of the negation particle or negative particle. So these are some examples, as you have seen in these examples. In most cases, we see that ma, for the ma and mi, we saw that they come before the name, whereas for mi, min, and me, they come after the name. In most cases, one exceptional case was minduk. And that as I have already described, is because of the intrinsic characteristic or intrinsic quality of the conformational particle, which tends to come at the end of the statement. Definitely, if we are using conjunctions like tangzha, the particle of tang, which can be used as conjunction, as well as the continuative particle, then we see that it comes just before these particles. But when we look at a single statement, be it a compound statement, the first part at the end, if there is a conformational statement particle, it will come at the very end, and then followed by conjunction, such as the continuative particle or particle of tang. Or we also have the continuative particle with the usage of particle of ne. We can say, for example, this particular case where we have the conformational particle hin, even though we can say that in this entire compound statement, hin is not at the very last, but we also see this continuative particle here, and in this case, it functions as a conjunction. It joins these two statements, these two dependent statements, that is. But when we look at this first portion, we see that in this very statement, the conformational particle did come at last, followed by the conjunction. And in this statement, as we also see, the conformational particle did come at the last. So it's the intrinsic quality of the conformational particle to come at the end of a statement that has, in a way, what it has done is that it has overpowered, or it has dominated the quality of min to come at the end. But then one can also argue that min simply is the negation of yakpo. So we can make two arguments. We can say that min does not directly negate tuk, but it negates yakpo. But if that is not enough, we can also say that it is the intrinsic characteristic of the conformational particle to come at the end of a statement. That is why min, even though in all of these examples, not these, or this and this, if we look at the first portion of the statement, we see that it comes at the end. So this is the case where it comes before duk. So these are two arguments that we can set in order to clarify that kind of question that may arise. Oh, in the statement, in the very text, it states that it comes at the end of the word, so end of the name. So why isn't the case here? Because it also seems that min has a certain influence over the term duk, which means to exist. So to not exist. But then we must understand that this entire thing should be taken as one, yakpo duk, and the negation is to the yakpo duk. In that case, why is it yakpo duk min? And why is it yakpo min duk? And that is because of the intrinsic characteristic of duk. But then the first argument would be that it simply negates yakpo. And duk is a conformational particle that confirms the negation of yakpo. So therefore, min is not violating any rules in this case. Okay. Now, the third type of usage case is this one, in which we have stated that the negative particles ma is used in between two names to indicate usage as neither, saying that it's neither specifically, it's saying specifically neither. But it could be a combination of both. So it's neither this as specific or that as specific. It could be a combination of two things. So these are very interesting phrases. So the first one is samadrok, samadrok, in which we see that ma comes between two names. The first one is sa, the second one is drok. The sa represents shingba, which means farmer. Drok represents nomad. So samadrok means neither specifically farmer nor specifically nomad. It is a combination of both, meaning it's a semi-nomadic farmer, meaning that someone that also rears domestic animals as well as owns a farm, or someone that does agriculture and at the same time also rears animal. So samadrok. Drshi ki kimzani samadrok. Drshi ki kimzani samadrok, which means Tashi's family is a family of semi-nomadic farming, meaning that they do both farming and they also rear animals. Because at certain places, especially more into the grasslands, we see that the cultivation, that is the agriculture, is quite difficult because of the quality of the soil. And because of the quality of the soil, it is very difficult to grow anything there. But there is abundant grasslands on which they can feed the animals, and then they can consume the animals for their sustenance, or the things that comes from animals. So those are called nomad. And then at certain places, especially places which are at the bank of river, we see that the soil constituents are very fertile, meaning that they consist of nutrients which are capable for the cultivation or agriculture. So on those places, people are more farmers. And in Tibet, there wasn't, especially in the more eastern and more non-central part of Tibet, people practice the batter system. The farmers, they would bring grains, barley, and then or sometimes most of the case barley and other grains, and then they would exchange it for things like meat, butter, things like this. So sometimes parts of the animal. So samadrok is a type of sustenance in which the person relies both on agriculture as well as rearing the animals, meaning that they will not be considered as nomad because they might not migrate from one place to another. But at the same time, they are not entirely dependent on agriculture. So semi-nomadic farming. So samadrok. So neither specifically farmer nor specifically nomad. So it's a half-half, like a semi-nomadic farming. Ramaluk. Ramaluk, the direct translation would be neither goat nor sheep. But this is a phrase that is very much used in Tibetan language. Ramaluk means something that is neither this nor that. It's used for something like that. So mite ke ramalu chekitu, which means that person is talking a language that's neither. For example, if someone would talk in Tibetan, and then if they would use words that, and this is the case in which there is definitely a substitute for that word in Tibetan, but one still uses an English word or any other language to substitute for that word. We say ke ramalu, which means that this language that this person is speaking is neither Tibetan nor the other language. It's something in between. that cannot be considered to be 100% Tibetan language, nor it could be considered to be the other language. So ke ramalu. So mite ke ramalu chegitu. It means that the person who is speaking, he is speaking a mix of two language. That the language is not purely this or that. Shimasu, which means he, means to die. Sun means to be alive. Shimasu means in a state where someone is in between being alive and dead. So unknown if someone is dead or alive. Not in the case that they are lost. It's just that someone is in a very and sometimes this is also used in Tibetan language to exaggerate a certain situation, where they say that because I worked so much today, or because you have given me too much work today, now I'm in a state of neither living nor dead, meaning that they are very exhausted, that they might not be dead because they are somewhat breathing, but they are not alive also because they don't have the full function right now of the body because they're very exhausted. So, lega mangpo che te, lega mangpo tetra che che, mi mangpo shima sun retu. Lega mangpo tetra che che, mi mangpo shima sun retu. It means after doing so much work, many of the people are neither dead nor alive, meaning that if we consider them to be dead, they're still breathing. If we consider them to be alive, they have no energy to even move. So, shimasu. Kangmachar. Kangmachar. Tatachir kangmachar pagintu. Tatachir kangmachar pagintu. Kangmachar means it's like a snowfall, but at the same time it's raining. So it's not like the particular snowfall where we see that the snow is slowly collecting on the ground. It's more like a mixture of snow and rain. So kangmachar. So it's neither snow nor rain. It's a mixture of it. Chamata. So in this case, it doesn't mean it's neither bird nor horse. Definitely, and it means it's neither bird nor horse. But it also doesn't mean it's a combination of both. It just means messenger. It's a word that is used for messenger, chamata, which is used as a messenger. Ponya chamata gelbu talenkur. Ponya, which means messenger. So I have used two words that means messenger. Chamata gelbu talenkur. The messenger carries the message of the king. The messenger carries the order or the message of the king. So we see some of the usage here. As we see, there is some of the usage here. And these usage, as you see, are the usage cases. The first one of the two particles that comes before the word or the name, two particles that comes after the name or the word, and one particle that comes in between. So these are some of the usage cases. But now, there is a question that arises now. Just because ma is associated with the name, does it always have to be a negative? Does it always have to be a negative particle? The answer is no. There are cases where we may have similar ma or mi used as a part of a name, but in those cases, it may not be a negative particle. So let me just change to this. Okay, so I hope everyone can see this. So here we have examples in which it says that mai kaotra mayin xing mingi chashe yinpa. Mai kaotra mayin xing mingi chashe yinpa. It means the word ma, even though it is not the negative particle, it is still part of a name. So in these cases, we may see ma used with particular name. But in these cases, this is not functioning as a negative particle, but simply a part of the name. For example, Homa, in which we see the first part of the name is Ho, the second one is Ma. But the Ma is not a negation of Ho, but these two are single name, which means milk. Ma He. Ma doesn't negate He. This is a word that means buffalo. Nima, where we have Ma as a part of the name, but this is not a negation. Mamo. It doesn't negate Mo. What Mamo means is it's grandmother. Karma, which means minute or star. Matza. Matza means the capital. It means the capital or the money that is the capital of a business. So matza. Zama means pot. Maje means cook or chef. Choma also so two meaning. It also refers to the sweet potato, but there's also this one. It's a sort of a dry fruit. It's a sort of a dry fruit that is also something that can be used for eating. Choma, and also the sweet potato. Mapu, ma, and the word ma can also be understood as mother, and pu is that it is. It's not a case that it is 100% use. It's not 100% usage of the negative particles. There are also usage cases in which ma can associate with a name, in which case it is a part of a name. Okay, so these are the usage cases that you have seen. The usage case is simple. It's negation. The very usage case we will discuss in the next class. Like I said, the concept of negation is a little bit tough, and I'll also provide examples for these negations, and also provide some sort of arguments regarding each of these negations, so that it would be easier to understand. But now we have just seen how we use them, and what are how do we associate them with. Ma min me. So these are the four particles of negative particles. So these are the four negative particles, and the particles ma, mi can be used in front of a name, min me after a name, ma in between two names. So this is it for today. So before I read the final verse, does anyone have questions regarding mami min me? Today's lesson. Does anyone have any questions? Lasso. Lasso.
Kukamsan, nala gokiduge.
Lasso.
Question about ma and me.
Mm-hmm.
As a general rule, we have that ma me used before, the point that it negate, and mean and me after. And it's very logically, it's very easy to understand, because these four works like a quanta. So if we have open syllable, we need something after this. It's very easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But please take into account only first case, ma,
Mm-hmm.
and the question is how you decide which one to use, ma or me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lasso. So when usually when we use ma with an action, it's in most cases, and how we use ma is that we use ma in case of we are telling someone to not do something. So saying te mache, te malap, And then when we use me, it's more like I will not do this. I will not this. For example, we can say nge tendre leka miche. Kerangi tendre leka mache. More like advising someone. So miche is more like I shall not do this. If it comes to action, that is the case. But for the case of descriptive words, it's more like in most cases it's more interchangeable. Suk maring, suk miring. It's interchangeable. You can use either. But when it comes to action, word, when we say mache, we use ma. It's more like telling someone else. And when we use me, it is more like I shall not do this. I shall not. Nge ti minyo. Kerang ti manyo ang nge kyang ti minyo. Kerang ti mashe ang nge kyang mashe. Nge kyang mishe. Kerang kyang mashe ang. So you also don't say this. I shall also not speak of it. Kerang te mache ang nge kyang te miche. You don't do this. I shall also not do this. So when it comes to the narrator, most of the case, if it's action word, me is used with the narrator or the first person, whereas ma is used to advise someone, and second person. It's always the second person. So this is the difference when it comes to action. But when it comes to descriptive words, it is interchangeable and usually very difficult to differentiate. So many of the times the negation is interchangeable. So I don't think that there will be a problem with that. You can change them in almost all the cases. But for verb, mache, second person, advice, miche, first person, shall not do. It's more like making a commitment towards something. Lasso. I hope this clarified this. So do we have any other questions regarding today's lesson? Lasso.
민담의 인걸라 자세히 두숨 가기 배지체고
le minta making wala chazi lason chitane. Okay, so in most cases we see that we use min. Normally we use min with either past tense or future tense. If it's for example, nge te chemin, nge te chayimin. But me is usually used with the present tense. Usually it's used with the present tense. Nge te chemin, nge te chegime. So min usually with the past and future, me with the present or present continuous.
Then how about like I didn't went there. Machin me lamna digi tuge yana nga drome.
Nga chimin or nga dromin.
Drome.
Nga tela dromin. Yes.
I didn't.
So you don't have to use chinmin. So dro is enough here, and we know that dro is also a usage. It's a verb which doesn't necessarily have a subject. So it's a verb of the object. So therefore, it can be used with min. But if we say chin, nga tela chin. Nga tela chin me.
Or if I want to ask a question like general chelang kasang gombala chin be yana drawing be.
Kasang kenang gombala chin best. you can say khasang gombala chin bes. Nga khasang
Any len-
gombala nga khasang gombala chin me. So here, yes, here I've particularly used chin. But like I said, in most cases, it's with the present tense. But there may be cases, for example, like chin and do, where it's mostly without the subject, where we can see the usage cases with me, even though it's a past.
기지 친 배주 마체나 사 체랑 칼라 세인베 양나 체랑 칼라는 고나 칼라 사인베 야나 세인베
Kala same. So here you see that it is the present tense, right? Kala same.
But
kala
the
se-
question I used past tense or present tense.
It was present tense. You said kirang kala sa imbes, which is more like present tense. Sa. So I answered nga kala same. Kirang ki kala se imbes, which means it's the past tense, right? Nga kala se min.
So it depends on the question, is it?
It depends on the verb. So now we are going even more. Now as we see that the usage is getting more complicated because of the type of verb, right? So it's a difference in the transitive and intransitive verb. So if it's a verb that does not have a specific subject, we see that in those cases, min and may is interchangeable. But if it's a verb that has a specific subject, we see that it is used present tense for me and past and future tense for min. Now let me give you another example which has a verb that has a subject, which is che. In this case, if we say me, it would be nge te che me. It's present tense. But if we say nge te che min, that would be the past. Nga te chagyu min, which means it is the future. So if it has a specific subject, then we see that there is a great difference between the usage of min and may in terms of the three times of past, present, future. Because we know that the past, present, future is very much related to the concept of the verb. And so therefore, it depends on the type of verb. And if it's a specific type of verb, then we can also say that this specific verb will have this specific usage. So it depends on the verb, the type of verb. So
that's all. I think.
Lasso.
You actually the mar parma, like tequila.
Pargi selche.
The Samayin does it include in this category?
Samayi.
Because you say the two names, right?
Samayi is yes. This is something that that is very much misunderstood. It is Hamayin and not Hamayi. It's Hamayin. Mayin is the negation of yin, which means that it is not tha, which tha means the beings of the heaven. So it means it is not the being of the heavens. But then this is very complicated because it also understood that it is also not a being which is other than it is not being which is the other in the other realm. So this is asura. So even the word asura, we see that is the negation, and the sura, which is talking about the beings of the heaven. So asura or the hamayi is not pargisilche. And this is actually a very good thing that you have asked, because many give example of this when we give an example of pargisilche, but this is not, it is simply negation. It just says these are not heavenly beings. It does not indicate that they are also humans or anything. It just says that it's not heavenly being. But we understand that these are not heavenly being neither these are humans or any other lower realm. So these are the demigods, the Suras. So yes, even though it just says not heaven beings, so it's simply negation and not pargisilche.
That's the teaching again.
Lasso. Okay, so do we have someone who would like to recite the portion? Do you have anyone who would like to recite the portion of Tree of Excellent Speech that they have memorized? Lasso, Yurila.
Lasso again at the Jenang.
Lasso.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Lama tango po jitsun jambiliam la chotero o a ra baza na di. Nini gardang mebe ra. Dani duje gyuze dang. Zeka tanga ngala juk. Minki tome deda ni. Danye tema tapa dang. Namdang shenje nyela juk. Ji sukan chita te. Shikte leta chila ji. Nyeshin talshin kela ji. Suni kansa kanku la o.
Lasso. Katinche. Yurila. Thank you very much. Now, with this, let me recite the final verse and then we'll complete our lesson for today. So it's very wonderful now that we have only the next class. I'm going to give you a heads up. It's going to be a little difficult because it's the concept of negation. Those of you who have already studied the negation, for you, this will be a revision. But those of you who are new to the concept of negation, it is going to be a little difficult because this concept is, especially the two types of negation that we're going to speak about, and that also in detail. And also not only those two types of negations, there will be other classifications under the negations. So it will be a little difficult, and it will be more, there will be more concept on understanding negation rather than understanding it in the terms of just usage in grammar. It's the very understanding. And this also is the very foundation of many of the negations that we talk in Tibetan. And this will also give you an understanding of what we mean when we mean the negation of something. So therefore, it's a heads up. It's going to be a little difficult, but nothing to worry because I'll try to provide as much example as possible to make it as easy as possible. And those who have already studied negation, especially while studying the Dudra that they have, the fundamental epistemology, for those, this will be revision. For those who haven't, it will be a new concept. So, and we're only focusing on negation. Kakpa will not talk about Drubpay. Okay, so the final verse. Melam siki rawale. Siki jikden thamche dru. Reshi tela samchena. Chawa thamche tsile ko. A very daring verse, if I may say. Melam siki rawale, siki jikden thamje dru. Reshi tela, samchena, chawa thamje tsilako. Aspirations abound in the mash of words. Entirety of samsara is manifestation of words. If this is truly contemplated once, one will comprehend that all actions are from mere labels. So with this, I shall conclude today's class, and I thank everyone who have participated. I hope this was as beneficial to you as it was very much enjoyable for me to teach. Please revise all these lessons. Try to connect them with the verse. If possible, memorize the verse. It's a very beautiful text, very concise. And the structure is also quite interesting. It is very interesting. So therefore, please memorize and please revise. And if you have any question, please post them. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. It has been delayed recently, but I'll try to answer them as soon as possible that I can. So with this, I thank every one of you, and I hope everyone have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, night, wherever you are. And tashitele to everyone, and I'll see you for the next class. Lasso, tashitele.